Hi guys, welcome back to you all and a happy new year, because this is the first time I've filmed a video in 2025. I appreciate the previous video was released in 2025, but I filmed it in 2024. So yeah, I thought I'd say happy new year. Hopefully 25 brings you all what you want in life and no upsets, and fingers crossed it's a smooth year. So from me, back to project work, and obviously, as you'll be aware, at the minute we are cracking on with the Croxley Hall Depot build. So in the last video we got up to the stage where I started putting a road area in. We put some conductor rails in. If I just spin the camera around, I'm using a new camera now, if it works, there we go, and then just pan down, there we go. So this is where we're at now. So as I said, we started putting the road in, we've got conductor rails in on the 3-foot board, we've got the warehouses in place with a concrete hard standing down the bottom and fencing all the way round. And since then, as you can see, I've also gone ahead and, I keep getting this around the wrong way, fitted some greenery. I've fitted a cable run, cable arch, a couple little bits and bobs just to tie it all in. And I'm really pleased how this looks. It's sort of what I was hoping for in the first place. And obviously the layout as it was very brown, very monotone, one colour, apart from where I've used different ballast in the shed area, which to be honest, I actually quite like. So I wanted to add a bit of flair and interest and colour. So to do that, I have used Woodland Scenic static grass and a Peco static grass machine. I've used 2mm as a base layer in multiple places, and then gone over it with a bit of 4mm and a bit of 6mm dead grass as well to give a few variations in colour. I've then fitted some of the Woodland Scenic's underbush, I think it's called underbrush, something along those lines. That's what is making up the little bits of foliage, bushes and stuff. And then there's a little bit of scatter put on top of those, and then it's just sealed in with some layering spray. Layering spray wise, you can use matte varnish. I've seen a lot of people do that, but I already have layering spray here, so I thought I'd use that. The only other thing I've done is in some places you'll see, so this little section in between, there are a couple little patches where the ground just shows through slightly, and I wanted to try something new with a mud effect paint. And for that, I used Citadel Technical Sterling Mud. So you paint this on nice and thick, and when it dries, it gives you like a muddy sort of effect. So I was really pleased with that. But yeah, all in all, it's looking really good. Obviously, this is only sort of a third of the layout, being 8 foot. This is only a 3-foot section, so we've got another 5 to do over here. So we better crack on. So as I mentioned in the previous video, the idea is that the new access road will continue all the way down to the end, and it will feed the end of the shed area where the heavy lifting sort of zone is, that will have a gantry crane. I have got the gantry crane, I just haven't obviously put it in for this shot because it's quite flimsy, I don't want to damage it. As I mentioned plenty of times before, there will be another 1 foot of baseboard on this side because the branch line will go up alongside here once this bolts in with hair filled. But when this is taken out to an exhibition by itself, this will be it. So obviously with this siding down the side, this limits us from having the road on this board. So we've got to compromise, and the road has to go on to the next one. So the road will continue down. It won't be too wide, it'll be quite narrow really, about sort of 7 or 8 centimetres wide I think is what I need to do. And then it needs to come up here. So I'm going to have to compromise a bit with my siding length, and I think I'm going to have to bring the sidings back a few inches so that the road can cut in here, and then we've got this area for sorting out vehicles and stores stuff and things like that. So if we can fit it in, I would like to have some sort of stores racking here somewhere. Obviously we need to have a fence to separate off this scene from the back scene, but basically this concrete pad here is at an angle, so obviously I don't want to extend it like this because it will look funny, so I'm going to have to cut it out where the line is here. So that was an expansion joint, I just airbrushed them in, as you can see. I thought it was a cool little effect. So I'm going to have to cut that out up to that rail, and then I'm going to have to replace this with a whole new pad that's squared off, because this whole area, you've got to have enough space to be able to get vehicles in here and mess about. Somewhere maybe to put some bins for the depot, some biffa bins and stuff. We can have a biffa lorry coming in and out and do all that sort of jazz. But anyway, to make room for that, as I say, we've got to cut down this siding. The only problem with that is I wanted these sidings this length because, as they are at the minute, you can comfortably get a 5-car rail adhesion train in. So this means that we are going to have to sack that idea off, and we will only be able to run a 4-car tube stock in and out of there. To show you what I'm on about then, so here is a 4-car 62 stock tube train that obviously I want to run on the layout. So this is what these two sidings are for. They are so that a little tube stock unit can come in and out on like a sort of shuttle almost service, as if it's come off the main line and is stabling. But this is about as far back as it can go because of the clearance point. So you can see there, you've got enough clearance there so stuff can get past. So you wouldn't want to stable stuff any further this way. Now, of course, you need a little bit of wiggle room here and there because naturally driving these things, no one's going to be able to stop on the marks perfectly. It is what it is. So with a 4-car, you can see we've got loads of room. If we had a buffer stop in line with this light somewhere, which would actually probably work out quite well, then we'd have plenty of room for error. However, if you make this a 5-car, and the easiest way to do this is simply take a centre car out to get an idea of length, because that's what you would put in, of course. And if we put that on the rails there somewhere, that would give you an idea of where a 5-car would land. Hence, you can tell why the sidings are this length, as long as they are. So all that would give us, space-wise, is pretty much 2-3 inches max that we're able to move them stops. And I think, to be honest, it's going to all be too much of a squeeze in this area to get the road in, because remember, if we've got a fence here, you've then got vehicles trying to squeeze in here, and then in here somewhere, they've got to be able to manoeuvre, so they've got to be able to turn round somehow. So whether that be a 3-point turn or whatever, I don't think we're going to get a turning loop in here, which is a shame because it'd be nice if we could, because the Weissman car system could alternatively come and turn around here with, say, a biffa lorry or something. But you can see that being able to run 5 cars is just no longer going to work. So we're going to have to settle for 4-car setup, which is like that. And then we're going to have to obviously make do and cut the sidings back here somewhere. But in turn, as I say, that gives us all of that space. It's a good sort of palm of your hand size. My hands are sort of decent size, I suppose. So that's plenty of room to be able to get in there and get a decent little road set up in. For reference, this is going to be the turning area, and it's about the same size, so we might even be able to squeeze in a return loop for the Weissman cars. So I'm going to get the Dremel out now, because I want to do this first, as it's getting late and I don't want to annoy my neighbours too much. So I'm going to Dremel this now, and I'll try and get these buffer stops off without snapping them. If we do snap them, hey ho. And then I will basically chisel out the ballast to get the shape of what we want to do. Right then, let's get to work. So you can see we've got the front of the tube train here, we've got the buffer stops here. So I've just got to work out lengthwise how much we need to cut off, which if I put the ruler around the right way, it would help. So we need to take, we need about, I would say, 5 to 6 centimetres in front of the tube car. That gives us a centimetre sort of each end of wiggle room. So if we put that there, that's to allow for the buffer stop, of course. So if we put that there, that's 6 centimetres there. So that puts us just before this lighting tower. Now, to be honest, I'm thinking actually, I think my turning circle for the cars was going to be 20 centimetres. And actually, if we include a fence and a little bit of room this end, then that gives us 25 centimetres between where the fence will be and this lighting tower. So that's actually plenty of space for a turning circle for the cars. So I'm happy with that. So in effect, we could actually go to the end of this to give us a bit more wiggle room. So I think we'll do that. So that's 9 centimetres. So I think we will do that. So what I'll do is I'll get all this out of the way. I'll move the first 2 tube cars out of the way so we don't damage them. And then I think we will go in line. Right. No going back now. Lovely. Now, that's cut. Just before doing this, don't forget the all-important thing, safety squints. I've just had a thought. There's no way in hell I'm getting those buffer stops off of that bit of track without snapping them. So, something I've seen at other depots previously is buffer stops on their own little piece of track, joined together with the main bit of track with fish plates. So I'm thinking actually I could cheat. If I cut the buffer stop bit of track off, I can then graft that in. So I'll flip round so it'll make more sense. So back to chopping stuff. Right, so I've cut those, we'll get these buffer stops off. So with my spray ball I use to wet ballast when I'm gluing it down, just do the same to remove it. What you need now is a chisel and a lot of swear words. So this bit of ballast and track can go itself. Really, I should use a scraper for this actually, because it's a bit thinner. However, a little bit of jiggery pokery, whatever you want to call it. I've not cut through that well enough. There we go. There's our first buffer stop, complete with track piece. The advantage of fine ballast, it just falls off. Look at that. Just want to do it without breaking it all. That's the hard bit. We're almost there. Helps if you cut through all the webbing. If only we had a chisel. So that's them ones off, and then we just got the back sleeper putting up a fight. And there we go, that's number 2. Oh, almost. There we go. So there's number 2. All I have to do is obviously clean the ballast off of them, and then we can place them in and put them in with some fish plates. Now then, the buffer stops are in position, they're glued down, and we've got some fish plates in there, and I'm quite pleased how that sort of sits, and it's just enough room with a bit of leeway for a 4-carb tube stock. So the attention now turns to this area here, which of course is going to be the turnaround area for cars. Previously, this piece of concrete hard standing was here, and I want to change this. It's still going to have concrete hard standing, but it's going to be slightly bigger. And also you'll notice that that concrete standing tapers down, and that's because when this board used to slot in to the old iteration of my model railway, there was a big embankment here, which is why we only ever had one siding originally. So there was an embankment running probably from around here all the way, and it cut right across, so all of this area was embankment, and then the far left hand side station board of Harefield actually sat here, so this sort of slotted inside it. Obviously now we don't need that, so there's no reason to have the tapered bit of concrete hard standing, which looks a bit strange. Also, I'm thinking that if I square it off, I can use this area down here for a bit of storage of stillages and stores items and things like that. Maybe a couple of wheel sets here and there or something like that, or we can even use this little section for some wheel sets. I want to give the impression that a forklift or a van can get down here and offload some items into the lifting bay. And to do that, I'm going to get rid of this. I've cut a strip of plasticard, which is the same thickness, because this is one piece on top of another, so that this sits on top of the sleepers. Now, just quickly to touch on that, I haven't made the concrete hard standing flush with the top of the rails. If you remember from the last video where I fitted all of the conductor rails on this board, you'll remember me saying that cleaning the track is the priority after learning the hard way. So the reason I've done that is it's sunk down so that the track sits up proud. So if you come across with a track rubber, you're a lot less likely to take the surface off of the hard standing. And as you can see, when it's all nicely airbrushed and that, you don't want to be ruining it. So this piece of plasticard is the same height as the sleepers on the bullhead track. And then I've also cut out this piece, which is the same thickness as the original tapered top piece. But you can see the difference. It's a little bit wider in the first place, but it also is square, well, rectangle actually. So that now is going to go here in place of that. And the reason that this strip is not as wide as this is because the road is going to be at this level. And of course we need forklifts and things to be able to get up onto the hard standing. So it's going to slope down. So we're going to have a little sloped sort of edge there. And I think that will give a nice little effect and it will blend it into the road surface nicely. With a little bit of filler across the front, that should work fine. So I'm just going to trim this edge so that this is flush. I'm going to glue that all down. And then once I'm happy with it, of course, we'll need to get the filler out and mess around a little bit. And then we can come in with the concrete paint, which is the same concrete paint that I used for the hard standing up where the little substation is and on the back scene warehouses. So that will go in there, and then a little dash with the airbrush to blend it into the existing surrounding concrete, and then that should look alright. So yeah, I'm going to stop waffling on, I'm going to glue them down, and I'm going to make some more progress getting the road sorted and that, and then we'll come back when I've done a bit more. Here we are then. Now I've made some progress. We've got a road area in and just a basic black paint for now, just to give an idea and for a bit of a sort of base before I go over it with the textured Rust-Oleum paint. So I've just cut up some strips to use as a sort of curb to segregate off that area from what will be behind it, aka some dirt and stuff, and some ballast on this side. So you can kind of see where we were going with the idea. The concrete pad is now much wider and it's also got a ramp up to it. It's completely flush. You can just see the sort of angle it's at if you compare it against the next piece on. Basically I've got a steel rules width of plasticard underneath to pack it up to the right height, and then it curves down from about this sort of width. And then this strip here, you can see the line going across just about. That is flush against the baseboard. Then I've sanded the lip of it down and also applied some filler on this side and sanded it all smooth. So it's a nice gentle curve up to it, and I'm really pleased with how that's turned out. So it means that stuff like a van could park up there, or a forklift or something. As I think I touched on earlier, the idea would be we could have a few little stores items in this corner as well. And then storage for maybe some wheel sets or something like that. On the subject of wheel set storage, I did think that this area wasn't actually big enough for that in the end. So unless we put it in this sort of bit here. So what I thought, I'll make the area big enough for if we put something here for now. But in the meantime, this area is perfect for storing, say, like a depot van. The ambulance is just a placeholder, ignore that. It's just to get an idea of size, because it's all I've got in the house. And then behind there we've got that little cutout, which is where they can have their biffa bins. This is one of Bunter's Yard's finest, so I'll have to get a couple more of him. But obviously it's perfect that, because they could wheel their bins around the depot if needs be by using the access ramp, wheel them out there, put them there, and then a biffa lorry, which is probably a similar size to this, can come in. It could go around the sort of turning loop, back in there, and take the rubbish away. So I figured that's quite a handy little thing. But yeah, generally I'm quite pleased with that. I think that looks pretty good. We've just got some of the West Hill Wagon Works 3D printed railings here currently. I probably will keep them as they are actually, because they do the job. They're not as nice as the metal wheels ones, but they're nice enough to get us by basically. So they'll just separate off the trains from the vehicles. You can see there we've got ample space. It doesn't need to be much because the trains obviously aren't going to jump across. Well, you hope not. and they would be accessed from over this side anyway. So yeah, that'll stay like that. The only thing I've been thinking about, which is going to have to change, is where the back seam goes on this end. I was considering putting one of those JS Models factory buildings there. I've got a low relief one that I built up. And thinking about it, I think I'm going to sack that idea off and just have plain sky, and then we're going to put some wheels fencing along here, and then just a load of bushes and stuff, because it will also help to take your eyes away, from the baseboard join once it joins onto the rest of Harefield, because the other side of the junction will be here eventually, the other side of the big triangle that I'm going to build. So we'll put some foliage there, put some foliage on the next board, and when they bolt together, it'll kind of hide the seam a bit, which will be nice. And the wheels fence in there, don't really need it on this board, but it helps to blend it into the back seam boards, which will be there. But yeah, it gives you the idea of what's going to go on. So, excusing the mess, obviously you can see the road travelling down. You would travel off scene and then end up here for accessing the back of the depot and the crane area. Talking of this bit of road, as I had the filler out, I did come along and fill in them big gouges that are in the baseboard at the front, so it's nice and smooth now. Obviously you can see some of the lines and marks and stuff in the paint, but when the textured paint has gone on, you won't notice that. But when I do put the textured paint on, I will have to try and mask up these little manhole covers that I put in. So there's one there, we've got one on the side, you can just about see it. It's just there, one in the middle hiding a screw, and there's another one just in front of this little grit bin, as well as up here somewhere under the cable arch. So I probably should put another one in that corner to sort of tie it all in together. I'll do that, and then I'll have a tidy up, I think. And then when I'm completely happy, I'm going to throw some textured paint on it and see how we end up. Milo, would you like to know where we're up to with the model railway? Yeah, no? Yeah? Don't care, do you? Well, I do. So, here is the bit we were working on, and it's now nearly there. Pretty happy. So, I did go ahead and use the Rust-Oleum textured paint, which is Age Iron colour, and I sprayed that on, masked it off where I wanted it, where I didn't want it, blah blah. Sprayed it on, then I've gone round and sanded it off, and then used some Peco grey weathering powder to go around the area where the vehicles will turn, and also in here, because vehicles will obviously back in there, just to give a bit of variation in the colour, and I think that's turned out really nice. So what I'll probably do is show the process with this piece, because you can see the difference. This is just the black paint, and this is the tarmac, so it's a massive difference. So I'll probably show that bit just to give you guys an idea in case you're still unsure. So we've got that done, then I've masked off and done the concrete colour again, because there were a few runs in it where the paint splattered. I wasn't happy with it, so I've done that again. Obviously it still needs weathering, ignore that bit of walling, it still needs weathering to match the bit around the side, but we've got that nice ramp up, which is cool, and I quite like that it ramps up next to this piece, so you can see that sticking out, which shows you how you get up there, which is nice. Obviously we've got this bit where we will have a non-broken bin somewhere, and then if people want to access the yard, they can that way. So that's pretty cool. I thought if I leave the fence out there, it gives them access. Not that they're real people, but in my head they might be. Gone round the side of here with some West Hill Wagon Works 3D printed railings. They are printed in this nuclear bright yellow, so they obviously need a quick coat of paint because they're very shiny, just to tone them down, and then probably a little bit of weathering powder over them to just stop them sticking out like a sore thumb. I've filled in the ballast in this section, so I'm pleased with that. So that's all good, looking cool, I'm happy. Then over here you can see I've fitted some wheels palisade fencing, as I think I mentioned I was going to do originally, so that just goes the whole width, and I've made sure to put it right on the edge here because, as I've mentioned a million times before, there will be another board here, so I want the fence to be able to carry on seamlessly. So on that side, just to get around it, I've just put a small section in, so that's fine. And then on the back you can see I've put some static grass. It's just wooden scenics. No, World Scenic, WWS, yeah, World Scenics, isn't it? There's static grass on here, and then just some shrubbery down the back. So hopefully when that goes up against the back scene, it'll have a nice little transition in there. And that should look pretty good. So what am I doing now? Well, that is the boring job of conductor rails, which I did, I believe, show in the last video, which was putting the third and fourth rail in on this 3-foot section of the layout. So I'm now beginning to put it in on this section, and to start off with, I have fitted the centre rails on this piece here, and then these two sidings. I've got a little piece more to fit from here to this tape. The reason there is tape in two sections is because the 4-car tube stock will sit in that gap. I've measured it out, and I've put one on just to get an idea. So I want to put a walkway either side, so I obviously need the conductor rails to stop short, and I need a gap. So that's why the tape is there, and I will also put fill in that point, with another bit of walkway so that staff can get across, or shunters or whatever, which leads me to start thinking about whether this lamp needs moving, but we can think about that another time. I don't really care right now. And then down there, obviously the conductor rails don't need to go up to the buffer stops, because the shoe gear on the train will be sort of behind the first compartment, on the first bogie of course. So you'll have like the cab there, and the first bit of shoe gear will be up here somewhere, and then that leaves this bit of area for putting, again, a bit of sort of walkway there. And the idea would be that they access that little bit from the road side rather than here, because we've got that fenced off section. So on the subject of conductor rails, obviously it gets a bit messy around points, so you need a piece basically branching off on the points, and that's what I've just made here. So I've got a piece of rail which is the right length to do sort of one section, but then of course, as I say, it needs to basically go off in a Y like that. So I've then marked it out, I've dremeled a slot in it, and then dremeled a slot in another shorter piece. Then I have taped it to the table, which is glass, so it cleans up fine, luckily, and it's not gone smash yet. So tape the two pieces there, and then solder them together underneath, which you can sort of see, but you're never going to see that bit because it sits that way up, and then just basically shape it all down where is needed. So these will slot in, just to show you, somewhere. That one will go somewhere around there, just to give you an idea. So that will be how the conductor rail carries on a set of points. So that gives you the idea. So you've got this piece for going around the curve, and you've got that piece for going straight on. So I'll carry on with that. I'm going to get all the conductor rail in, and then I think I'll come back and show you just how I'm going to paint up that bit of road. Well then, I've gone through the agonising process of fitting and painting all of the fourth rail now, so you can see it's all in, including the point work. Pretty pleased with how it's turned out. And I mentioned earlier that now I need to paint this part of the road so that it matches this. So what I use is Rust-Oleum aged iron textured paint. As you can see, it comes in a spray can. It's about 14 quid a can from B&Q, so don't waste it. It does go far though if you're not too mad with it. So obviously we've got the road all masked up. I'm not going to mask absolutely everything because it'll take so much masking tape, and I don't mask everything all nice and tight. I do it all quite sort of loose so that you can get it back off again after. What I will do is I've got like bits of scrap foam like this, so as I paint I'll have the spray can in one hand and I'll have this in the other hand, and I'll just basically follow along like that so that I don't spray over the track. Obviously if you want to go ahead and mask the whole layout up, that's up to you. It will be the better option to prevent any overspray, but you've also got the added risk of when you take the masking tape off, you might end up peeling some of the scenery off with it, which is why I didn't really want to mask all of the grassy area over there. So I'm just going to spray this now, and then we'll see what it looks like when it's dry. Now, just a quick note before I spray, obviously this channel is all about safety. We take it very seriously with our safety squints when we're cutting things like that. Fingers in your ears when stuff's loud. So that you don't upset your partner, make sure you spray in, and preferably outside, or in an area where it's well ventilated and you can clean up any mess easily. Obviously, as you've noticed, I'm doing this on my kitchen table. However, we don't really use the kitchen table, which isn't an excuse, but also it's a glass kitchen table. Now, the benefit of that is any overspray you get on glass, you can actually scrape it off with a Stanley blade and then give it a clean, and it'll be like it's never there. So obviously I am putting some sort of sacrificial bits of MDF down to catch most of the overspray, and I'm trying to be a bit careful, but if I do get any on the table, it will scrape off. But don't go doing this on like a wooden table or on your mum's sofa, or I don't know, on your nan's bed, whatever. Do see some strange things on the internet. But yeah, I'm going to spray this now, and then obviously let it dry, and we'll see what the standard finish out of the can is like, and then we'll go to town making that look a bit better. Well, I've just painted the road, so it looks a bit scary at the minute, but when it dries it should look alright. And then obviously the process of sanding it and stuff. But this paint, you really don't want to get it everywhere, hence all the masking tape, because being textured, it'll be an absolute nightmare to sand off. It takes ages, so that's why you want to avoid all your track work if possible. To be honest, the caps on these cans, you can see the cap there, they're pretty sort of directional rather than a wide spray. They're quite a narrow one, so you can aim it fairly well. So you can see there on the masking tape where there's only actually a little bit of overspray on the sides, to be honest, apart from down here where it's a bit of a nightmare to get it all in there. But that should look alright. What I have noticed is I did forget something. We've got a screw hole in the road there, frustratingly, in the middle. So at some point I'll probably have to put a drain cover in there to hide that. But other than that, it should look alright. So we'll see what it looks like when it's dry. So the road's now dry. It's the next day. In the end, I left it quite a while. And you can see how well it looks. It's a pretty good rendition of tarmac, if you ask me. However, it's a little bit coarse in my opinion, and obviously we want to go from it looking like perfectly clean, never touched tarmac, to something with a little bit of wear on it like this. So what I did on the other section is what I'm going to do now. I've got a little sanding pad. I use these, they're pretty good because they're pretty flat. This is the most coarse grit. I can't remember what it is, it used to say on the side, but basically I'm just going along and sanding mainly in the area where the cars will go, and only giving a light sand to the edges. So I'm basically going up the centre, like so. That just smooths it all out a bit, and you'll see there's a slight change in colour. It goes more of a lighter grey, but it makes it a much more smoother surface, which obviously in 00 gauge is what you want. You shouldn't really be able to see the texture, and it still has the nice colour in it, but also it goes to more of a lighter grey, as I said, which I think suits it better. So I'll do that for the whole thing. Obviously we've got a turning circle to go in here, so I'll probably make more of an effort to come sort of round like that and then go up this way, and then obviously round the curve there as well, to give the impression that this is a turning circle for vehicles sort of thing. So it would probably be something along the lines of that, because then on the next board will be the rest of the turning area. So I'll heavily sand the bits where the car's wheels would be, and then I'll just lightly sand the whole area, and then after that we'll use some powder. Right, I've gone and sanded down the road surface now. As you can see, it looks a bit nicer. It's a lighter grey slightly, and I've sanded down mainly in the centres, as I was saying before, and I've sanded where the sort of turning circle is going to be roughly, but it's quite hard to see on the camera. And also I want to give it a bit more definition where the vehicles actually turn. So I've got this Peco weathering powder. I would show you what the name of it was, but for some reason I decided to mix some paint on it at some point. But you can get it from model shops. It's just some grey weathering powder. So I've got some of that. I've got a nice big brush from Wilko, RIP. And then basically just dip that in there, a bit of powder, and then we want to just go over the area where the vehicles will be the most. So obviously, as I was saying, in the centre. And then you just want to really work it in there, and then try to avoid going too close to the edges if you can. And that will just give like a dusty appearance to where the vehicles actually go. And I think it helps sort of give the impression of sort of tyre tracks, if you like, and a bit of worn tarmac. Because obviously in the sides, the tarmac won't be particularly worn. So you will get this sort of variation. So we've got that in there, a bit more. And then we want to go around this way, because that's where vehicles are going to come back. And just really work it in there. Bear in mind, guys, while I'm doing this, I do have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. I'm just completely winging it with stuff that I found in the house that I had bought once upon a time. So this is all just trial and error. Obviously, we want to be able to go around that way as well. But then what you'll see is the road will look basically a little bit lighter where the cars go. Then we've got this little centre area which the cars will basically come in, they'll go around, or cars will go straight across. So they won't really touch this area, so that will stay a bit darker, and it will just help give the impression that it doesn't really get used. So I think that would work quite nice. Obviously we'll just blend it in a bit there. But you can see the kind of effect that it's giving, and it makes it look a little bit worn in that sort of space. Obviously the more you brush it, the more it will dull it down, and then hopefully at the end it will look something like that, which I was quite pleased with. So I'll carry on and we'll see what it looks like when we're finished. Well then, I must admit, I'm very happy with how that's turning out so far. Obviously it's only a quick job just to get us by for now, so it looks like a road surface, and to be honest with you all, I'm very pleased at how it looks already. Eventually I will probably go down the route of airbrushing in some patches, some little variations in colour, maybe even digging a bit of the tarmac out for some potholes and the like, and then just obviously adding some road markings, things like that, to really bring it all to life. But currently I'm super pleased with that, super pleased with this end as well. I think this really has changed it for the better. I wasn't pleased with the brownness of it, and it was so boring at this end. I didn't know what to do, so I'm glad that we've cut the sidings back. We've got this little area here. Obviously you can park a car, we can have some bits, some wheel sets or some bins or anything like that stored somewhere. We can maybe put some stores stuff along here, as I think I mentioned earlier in the video. We can do anything really, it's great. And we've most importantly retained that space where we can have a turning loop for a moving car system eventually when we get round to it. In the next video, I suppose we will probably carry on the greenery that started off down there, and we will continue this on these sidings and a few bits dotted around. I think this area at the back will probably be bushes and maybe a little tree, because we haven't got any on this little scene. So I did pick up some nice trees from 4D Model Shop, which I will go through if that is the case. Then also we've got to finish the bridge. We've got to make a rear piece for this retaining wall to thicken it up so it's strong enough to be a standalone item on the layout there. And also it needs a little side piece here, and there was also going to be a little embankment coming down just to blend it in to this flat area, hence nothing has been done with that yet. But as for that will probably be it for this video, because I'm aware it's gone on for long enough. So I hope you enjoyed that little video. That just leaves me to say thank you to those of you who watched my channel in 2024, and hopefully in 2025 I'll be able to produce some interesting videos for you, and we will make some more progress on the layouts. At the time of filming, show-wise for Harefield, I've got one show that there is concrete plans for, and that is Cheshire Model Railway Club. And I will be there with Harefield, just the main layout, the main loop, sorry, as it was for the Rapido Rail-X show, but a bit more finished, hopefully. After that, I was planning on doing Milton Keynes' show, however, it does clash with something, and I don't think it's going to be doable anymore, unfortunately. So I'm not sure what else is going to happen show wise for the rest of the year, but I will keep you guys informed if anything else comes up. For this, obviously once it's finished, that would be an option because I can easily chuck it in the back of my van, so doing a show with this would probably be quite nice. Obviously bearing in mind it will mainly be locos and just pottering about here and there, but it'll be nice to try and get out and see some of you all. That is kind of the idea with this, is to have something a bit easier to take with me. But hopefully you guys all like it. Hopefully you enjoy the content and my style of videos, which is more just me waffling on to myself, thinking out loud and just getting myself in a mess by ripping up all my hard work and starting again every 5 minutes. But if you enjoy coming along for the ride, then thank you very much, and leave a comment down below if you fancy it. If not, that's fine, it's up to you. I'm aware I won't be for everyone. But I will see you all in the next video if you're interested. So stay tuned, and I'll see you soon.